So this is a 2015 Audi A7 with a 3-liter supercharged engine. We are going to start from the exterior. We look at this sleek design, and then we look at the engine, the interior, and then some common issues you might encounter while you buy the first generation of the Audi A7. So starting with the exterior, you have your classic Audi design with a huge grille, and this car did come with 2 trims. So there's a Premium Plus, which I think this car is, and then there is Prestige. So if you get the Premium, you get the bi-xenon headlights. If you get the Prestige, you had LED headlights. You have a massive 20-inch rims on here and massive brakes and calipers. This is almost 10 years old and it looks very modern. I think this was a classic design. It's simple but elegant at the same time. Even today, almost 8 years later, it looks modern. So instead of Audi just designing another sedan, they opted for a sportback, or what here in America we might call a hatchback. And you can tell by the way the tailgate opens. So this design makes it look more like a coupe, and it's very distinctive design. And in my opinion, I think it looks better than any sedan that Audi actually makes. So as we continue with the exterior design, you do have LED tail lights here, and you have this massive dual tip exhaust. I think they are 4 inches wide, and they make a very nice growl. They have a very deep sound. You can tell this is a sporty car when it passes you by, not just by the design, but also the way it sounds. And it has an integrated spoiler hidden in here too, which comes on when you do around 80 miles an hour. But there is also a switch in the car where you can activate the spoiler and it will stay on if that's the look you're going for. So this is the 3-liter V6 TFSI with supercharger, and it makes around 310 horsepower and 325 feet-pound of torque. Given this is a V6 with a supercharger, I think Audi was a little bit conservative. They could have given it at least 350 horsepower to keep up with the competition. And all that power is sent to all-wheel drive system, which Audi is known for, with a ZF 8-speed transmission. And this car is quick. It will go 0 to 60 in about 5.4 seconds. So when it comes to fuel mileage, this is an efficient engine, getting around 18 miles per gallon in the city and 28 on the highway and 21 combined. But sometime on the highway, you can average around 32 miles per gallon. But this car was also offered in a diesel engine, which gets around 24 in the city and 38 miles per gallon on the highway. You have some different colors, like some blues here. You have the coil packs in different colors. This is actually very well dressed, and most of the things are hidden. Surprised on how well dressed this engine bay actually looks. So the front seats are quite comfy. They actually hold you in place. I think they are 8-way power controlled. They are also heated and cooled. You have wood panel on the door, wood panel on the dash. In total, you have 4 climate zones in this car. The rear passenger, they also have their own back there. One thing I'll say about Audi is they are able to take a complex system and actually make it look simple. But there's a lot of engineering behind what you see. So like the screen is integrated in the dash, and it actually comes up when you start the car. These screens get outdated, and sometimes it's nice to keep it away and just use your phone because your phone is more modern. So I think that's a nice touch when the screen actually disappears and it doesn't obstruct the design of the interior. So the back seat, you have plenty of legroom. Because of the way the car is shaped, you do not have enough headroom back here. So if you're taller, you want to sit on the front, and the shorter people can sit back here. You do have dual climate control in the back. And you also have vents on the side pillar. So the trunk is actually quite large. You have more than 24 cubic feet of cargo space. And you can put the rear seats down and increase the cargo space here too. You have a nice mat, it even says A7 on it. Privacy cover here and another one on top. And this is a powered lift gate. A combination of analog gauges plus the digital gauge, which I do prefer. Down here it looks simple. You have the wood panel, you have your start button right here, you have navigation, telephone, you have radio on this side. I think this car was 3G capable. Now it says 2G on here, but you do have old school looking navigation there. It's actually a very simple system to use, from comfort to auto, dynamic, which I think that's why you should drive the car in dynamic. And then you can customize it. You can put individual settings on this car. I do like it because you still have knobs, you still have a button to push. They haven't made it all like a touchpad. So the exhaust on this car sounds amazing. I'm not sure that this is a stock exhaust. I think it's an aftermarket exhaust. And if it is stock, I think it may have a resonator that was deleted. However, if you are the rear passenger, it's a little bit too loud when you're sitting on the back seat. And sometime around 2000 RPMs, you can get the drone inside of the car. The suspension is a little bit on the sporty side. It's still a little bit comfortable, but you can feel more of road bumps with this setup. The transmission is great. It's the ZF transmission that is used on a lot of cars nowadays. You can manually shift it with the pedal shifter, or you can put it on automatic. Either way, if you put the car in dynamic mode, it's a responsive car, and it's a car that actually inspires confidence. It's a car you want to push harder and harder. The four-wheel drive system provides enough grip. The car is a little bit on a heavier side, but given the size of the car and all-wheel drive system, I think 3,800 pounds is not that bad. And the suspension actually handles that weight very well. The weight transfer on this car is great. You do not get a lot of body roll. It's minimal. It adds to the fun of driving this car around the corners. This engine with a supercharger is quite responsive. So with a supercharger, it does feel more like a V8. But one thing I would add to this setup is maybe an intake. I want to hear more of the induction noises. I do want to hear the supercharger just to enhance the driving experience. So the first generation of the A7 have depreciated quite a bit. These were $80,000, $90,000 car when new, and now you can buy them around $20,000 to $30,000. So if you're in the market for one of these, there are some issues you need to be aware of, and one of them is oil. There are some reported issues with the car burning oil. There are multiple reasons why it can do that. I think the prior engines, before they were redesigned to this, they were notorious for burning oil. If you find that you have to top off your oil like every 1,500 miles, then that car has an issue of burning oil. But if it's every 5,000 you have to put like a quart of oil in there, then you might be fine. The other issue is leaking oil. This engine does have multiple areas where it leaks oil. Some of the gaskets on the top of the engine, it can leak from the back of the engine, and sometimes even on the bottom of the engine, like the oil pan if it's cracked. When you're buying the car, just look around, look underneath the car if the car was parked for a while to see if it has a leak. Also start the car to see if it has any smoke. So the other issue is the cooling system. Some of these cars do overheat a little bit if the cooling system is not well maintained. When you test drive one of these, make sure it's not overheating or it does not smell like coolant. Changing a water pump on Audi A7 will cost you at least $3,000 unless you do it yourself. So it can be very pricey. So this engine does have a timing chain. There is an issue with some of them. If your timing chain is not done and the car has close to 100,000 miles, just budget for that to be done. So there are a few maintenance things you need to know when the car is approaching 100,000 miles. I suspect most of them will have high mileage. The other issue is something called the PCV valve. It's supposed to relieve pressure from the crankcase. Basically, it's a small equipment, but that valve does get clogged, and that could cause an issue with your engine. It can either run rough or it'll give you a check engine light. So that's another thing you need to budget for, and it costs around $1,300 to replace the PCV valve. So those are a few issues you may experience with this car, but overall it's a pretty healthy engine. It's just some parts around the engine that may fail. The engine itself is a very strong engine. So this is a motorized crane. It will go in and out. Sometimes the mechanism will fail. The wing is right here. If you hit this and the wing doesn't come up, that's also another issue that might need to be taken care of. Other than that, I think the car is a very user-friendly car. It's reliable, it's comfortable. You have some few minor issues which I think a lot of German cars or European cars come up with. Some of them, they're just maintenance issue. I wouldn't hesitate buying this if it's well maintained, and that's the key. Buy a car that is well maintained. Maybe buy a car with low mileage. That would be the way to go. Otherwise, I think it's a very nice car. It drives very nice with that supercharger, and it's comfortable. You can have your family in there too. Thank you guys for watching. Please remember to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.